We often find ourselves inexplicably drawn to the weathered grain of an old desk or the heavy, mechanical click of an analog switch, a magnetic pull that suggests our modern spaces are missing a vital piece of the human puzzle. This curious attraction is actually a sophisticated psychological survival mechanism, a way for our brains to seek out emotional security in an era defined by the flickering impermanence of the digital world. By diving into the hidden biology of aesthetics, we will discover why your love for the old is a necessary anchor that provides a profound sense of continuity modern design often lacks. To uncover this, we will unpack the strange phenomenon of nostalgia for eras we never lived through, examine the sensory hunger for honest physical materials, and analyze how survivorship bias tricks us into equating age with quality. We will also explore how vintage objects act as pillars for personal identity and why the philosophy of embracing imperfection offers a psychological relief that modern perfection simply cannot replicate. The allure often begins with a phenomenon known as anemoia, or nostalgia, for a time you have never actually lived through. While we might think our preference for a mid-century sideboard or a 1970s color palette is based on personal memory, it is more likely tied to a collective cultural longing for a perceived era of simplicity. In the psychology of design, old acts as a subconscious shorthand for proven. When we see an object that has survived decades, our brains assign it a higher value of reliability compared to the sleek, ephemeral nature of modern technology. We live in an age of planned obsolescence where our most expensive devices are designed to be discarded within years, so the permanence of vintage design offers a grounding contrast that soothes our deep-seated anxiety about a rapidly changing future. Beyond the visual, our attraction to vintage design is deeply rooted in the concept of haptic feedback and the tactile reality of physical materials. Modern manufacturing often prioritizes efficiency and smoothness, resulting in a world dominated by glass, high-grade plastics, and polished synthetics that can feel sterile or even dishonest to the human touch. Vintage objects, however, carry what historians call the patina of time, providing a rich sensory experience that modern surfaces simply lack. Whether it is the textured grain of solid oak, the cooling weight of a cast-iron tool, or the resistance of a manual typewriter key, these sensations satisfy a primal need for physical engagement. Psychologically, this tactile variety creates a sense of perceived history where every scratch and worn edge tells a silent story, making the object feel like a companion with a soul rather than just another disposable tool from a factory line. One of the most powerful psychological tricks at play when we admire the past is known as survivorship bias. We often look back at the middle of the 20th century as a golden age of design because we are only looking at the objects that were high quality enough to survive until the present day. We do not see the millions of poorly made, ugly, or dysfunctional items that were thrown into landfills decades ago. We only see the masterpieces that endured. This creates a persistent illusion that they used to make things better, leading us to equate the vintage aesthetic with a superior level of craftsmanship and intentionality. When we choose a vintage piece, we are essentially outsourcing our decision-making to time itself, trusting that if an object has lasted 60 years, it possesses an inherent structural integrity that a mass-produced item from a contemporary warehouse cannot replicate. In a world where globalized retail means millions of people own the exact same furniture and decor, vintage design serves as a vital tool for the construction of a unique identity. Psychologists have long studied the concept of the extended self, which suggests that the objects we surround ourselves with are not just external tools, but are actually components of our personality and history. By seeking out unique, aged pieces, we are performing a quiet act of rebellion against the copy-paste nature of modern consumerism. Integrating a piece of the past into a modern home creates a bridge between different eras, giving the owner a sense of being part of a longer, more meaningful human lineage. This curation process allows us to feel like historians of our own lives, surrounding ourselves with artifacts rather than just products, which significantly boosts our sense of autonomy and personal narrative in an increasingly homogenized world. There is a profound psychological comfort found in the Japanese concept of Wabi-Sabi, which finds beauty in the imperfect, the impermanent, and the incomplete. Modern design often strives for a digital level of perfection, mathematically straight lines, perfect right angles, and flawless finishes that can actually be cognitively taxing for humans to inhabit over long periods. We are biological creatures, and we are inherently asymmetrical and messy by nature. Vintage design embraces the crack in the ceramic or the natural fading of leather, which mirrors our own human experience of aging and change. When we allow these imperfections into our living spaces, it lowers our subconscious stress levels because it removes the environmental pressure to maintain a perfect or sterile appearance. The secret reason you love vintage design might simply be that it is the only style that truly grants you the permission to be human. Ultimately, our fascination with the vintage is a search for meaning in a world that often feels disposable. It is a way to anchor ourselves in the physical world when so much of our daily existence is spent in the intangible clouds of the internet. By surrounding ourselves with the shapes, textures, and stories of the past, we aren't just decorating a room, we are satisfying a deep-seated psychological hunger for continuity and authenticity. The next time you find yourself drawn to an old, weathered object, remember that your brain isn't just looking at the past, it is looking for a way to feel more present in the here and now. Thank you for watching, and perhaps it is time to look at the old things in your life with a brand new perspective.